acknowledge that I'm joining you from the lands of the Kaurna people today, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I also extend that respect to any Aboriginal people who might be joining us on the call today. So what are we going to talk about today? So I've got a video to share with you first up from our Chief Executive, Sandy Pitcher, to give you a bit of a feel for our department and a little bit about what we do. And then I'll talk a bit more about DHS and our workforce. We'll obviously talk about the graduate program, some of the perks that we offer. Then we'll hear from Dana and Chloe, and then I'll cover off on some key dates and the application process as well for anyone who might be interested in applying for our program this year. And then we'll have some opportunity for questions at the end. Now, before we get started in the session, just wanted to find out a little bit of information about some of those that we have on the call today. So if you could just pop in the chat, when are you finishing your degree? So is it the middle of this year, the end of this year, or next year and beyond? Thanks, Jodie, finishing the end of this year. A couple of people finishing the end of the year, middle of this year, a couple of people finishing 2026 and beyond. That's great. So for those of you who are finishing your degree in 2025, then you will be eligible to apply for our graduate program this year, which is the applications are opening in May. I'll talk about that a bit later. For those of you who are graduating next year or in subsequent years, then certainly this is a great opportunity to find out a bit about DHS and maybe consider the program once you graduate. What is your degree or major area of study? Interested to know what you're all studying, which areas? Thanks, Jodie. Criminology and psychology, public health, great. Social work, counselling, business, HR management, perfect. Criminology and psychology, accounting and finance, excellent, thank you. So that's great. They're all degree areas where we do employ people and graduates within the ASO stream of the project. Thanks, Isabel, sorry, public health, excellent. And my last question is just if there's anything in particular that you came along today wanting to find out, which we'll hopefully either cover through the session itself, or if we don't, then we can address them as questions at the end. But yeah, if you came along wanting to know anything specific, let me know so that I can make sure that we cover off on that in the session today. Employment opportunities. Thanks, Aaron. You're in the right place. How much field experience impacts on employability? Employment for non-citizens. Yeah, absolutely. So I can certainly talk about those as we go through the session today. If there are any questions that we don't answer in the main part of the session, as I said, we'll have that time, different graduate streams available, we'll have that time at the end for any further questions. But thank you. I'll make sure as we go through that we cover off on those questions. So to kick off, I just wanted to share a video. So this is our Chief Executive, Sandy Pitcher. Now the sound should work. There might be a slight delay, but just bear with us. But hopefully you'll be able to hear Sandy speaking. If not, there are the captions on the screen as well.
Sorry, Mary, just a sec. I'm trying to just quickly get into the other. I just wanted to log into the other meetings for the DHS so that I have the file open. But just one sec, thanks.
Just there we go. Okay, so that was Sandy Pitcher, who, as I mentioned, is our Chief Executive, talking a little bit about our department and some of the work that we do. Now, some of you may already be familiar with DHS, but for those of you who aren't, we are a state government department, so not to be confused with the federal Department of Human Services that delivers Centrelink and other services. And we bring together many services across the state with the aim of supporting vulnerable South Australians. So I've heard some people describe us as a federated department, which means that we're not just doing one thing. We have a really wide range of services that we deliver. And all of those things are linked by our purpose, which is making a difference so South Australia thrives. To talk a little bit more specifically, these are not exhaustive lists, but I just wanted to give you a feel for the variety of areas in which we deliver services, where we have lead responsibility for policy for government in South Australia. And then in a moment, we'll also hear, as I said, from Chloe and Dana talking more specifically about some of the work that they do. But areas that we have lead policy responsibility in are community services concessions, so the cost of living concessions that are provided to people across the state. Disability, so we have policy responsibility for disability, but we also deliver services in disability in terms of supporting people with disability to live independently in the community, and also providing allied health NDIS services as well. We look at early intervention for child and family wellbeing. We provide grants. We have an interpreting and translating centre. We also have policy and program responsibility for problem gambling, for screening, so the working with children checks and aged care checks and things like that come through our department in the state. We have policy responsibility for women and women's equality through the Office for Women, youth justice, volunteers. We have responsibility for youth, homelessness, Aboriginal communities and remote visitors. I could honestly go on and on. We do have a lot of areas where we do. And in terms of the graduate program and opportunities for graduates, in the ASO stream, we have opportunities for graduates working in policy roles across many of these different areas. So Chloe, I think will be able to speak about have been in concessions for a little while, Office of the Chief Executive, and now community and Aboriginal partnerships. So Chloe can speak to some of those as well. So policy roles in those areas. And then we do also have corporate support roles where we place graduates as well. So certainly in business improvement and technology, so our IT area, communications and engagement, development and learning, that's the area that I'm from, and we often have a graduate, finance, HR, infrastructure, and then strategic policy as well. We're looking at policy across government for particular areas. And I should mention that we also have policy responsibility in terms of social inclusion. That's a key area where we often have graduates, and they might be working on policy related to youth, volunteers, or LGBTQIA+ communities as well. In terms of who's doing the work, I want to share a little bit about our workforce. So we have over 3,000 staff working at DHS, mostly in the CBD and metro areas of Adelaide, but we do have people across the state in regional and remote areas as well, delivering services. One thing that you might have heard Sandy mention in the video is the value that we place in diversity and inclusion. So that's very much a core part of the work we do in terms of, as I mentioned, policy work with LGBTQIA+ communities, delivering disability services. We work with Aboriginal communities quite as well. We hope that that is represented in our workforce, as you can see here. We do, from an employee point of view, have employee-led networks. So when people join the department, we have employee-led networks for culturally and linguistically diverse people, for LGBTQIA+, for people living with disability, and also we have our Nunga network for Aboriginal staff. And all of these employee-led networks really provide employee-led safe spaces for people to get together from those communities and share their experiences. So certainly that's something that is very much part of our values at DHS. Now, the graduate program, I think that's what you've all come along today to hear about. So just wanted to give you a bit of a rundown of what we offer. So we have a graduate intake each year I'll talk a bit later about the application process, but applications will open in May this year for the program, and there will be, for that cohort, there will be start dates available in September this year, 2025, and that's suitable for people who are finishing their degree in the middle of the year. And then also for those finishing at the end of the year, you could start in February 2026. The roles in the graduate program are an ASO 3 classification, and the starting salary is about $68,000 a year. That doesn't include superannuation. We offer, in addition to the 2-year employment contract, a structured 12-month development program, professional development program. So you undertake monthly training development sessions on a whole range of topics that are aimed at really skilling you up and gearing you up to succeed at work and in the public service. So some of the topics that we deliver are things like introduction to government. We do a tour of Parliament House so that you can understand how the work that we do in the department connects to the broader work of the government of the day. Professional writing and briefing. We focus on wellbeing, project management, working with data, and lots of other topics as well. There are also work rotations. So most graduates will do at least one rotation. So that means that they'll get experience in 2 different teams or areas of the department. And that's a really great way to broaden your experience in a work setting. I know a lot of people who might finish uni. Some of you may have a really strong idea of what you're interested in doing. For others, you may be looking a bit more to understand what, where your passion is and what your career might be. So a reason that the graduate program at DHS is such a great opportunity is because we deliver such a wide range of services and work in such a wide range of policy and professional areas. It means that there's a really broad range of opportunities available to you. We also have networking opportunities both within the department, and we work with other public sector agencies to do a cross-sector graduate meetup as well. So you get to meet other graduates across the public sector and start to build those networks also. So lots of exciting things about the graduate program. In addition to those benefits of the graduate program itself, other perks of just working at DHS, and these do extend to working across the South Australian state government as well. Access to flexible working opportunities. So these are often agreed, if you are successful with your manager, but things like the ability to work from home, compressed working hours, and various things along those lines to enable you to fit work in with your life. We certainly value that very much. Salary sacrifice, so there's opportunity to use pre-tax earnings to pay for things like a car or something like that. I've mentioned the professional development and learning, but certainly we have opportunities for further learning in addition to the graduate development sessions as well. Wellbeing and health and fitness benefits, so flu programs, EAP, blood donation drives. We have the Your Fitness Passport, which is access to discounted gym memberships and things along those lines. And then in terms of superannuation, you can have access to Super SA, which is the dedicated fund for SA public sector employees, and there are benefits there in terms of being able to salary sacrifice more into your super. So they're just a few of the benefits of what we offer in terms of the graduate program, just to give you a little bit of a feel for who we are and what we offer. I think I've done enough talking for now. So what I'm going to do is hand over to Chloe to speak about her experience in the graduate program and give you guys a really good idea of what you might expect if you were working at DHS.
Thank you, Anna. Hi, everyone. My name's Chloe, and I entered into the DHS Graduate Program at the beginning of last year. So just to give you some background on myself, I completed a double degree in law and international development at the University of Adelaide. And as I was finishing up my degree, I really wanted to get into a graduate program to get a broad range of experiences to help me decide where I'd like to work in the future. I wasn't 100% sure where I wanted to go after uni, and I thought graduate program would be a great way to, get some experience in a whole lot of different areas. So I was first attracted to the DHS Graduate Program because of its structured rotations and all the experiences that they offered. And when I looked into what the department does, I realised that this really aligns to my values and interests. I've got quite a big social justice kind of passion, and this really aligned with what I wanted to kind of get into. So even though I had a general understanding of what the department does, and Anna's, outlined a whole lot of areas that we work in, I'm still continually surprised about all the areas DHS is involved in. We've kind of got our hand in a lot of different areas, so it's quite exciting. During my time in the graduate program, I've completed 2 rotations already, and I'm on my final rotation. So my first rotation was in the concessions policy team, and during my time, I was given the opportunity to review policies and undertake research to propose amendments to the to propose amendments to the concessions that we have in South Australia. During this time, I was able to really use my legal and analytical skills to develop during my uni degree. And this provided me an opportunity to actually make a difference to those who need it the most in South Australia. So I found this quite a rewarding rotation. I was able to get into the community and inform people about concessions they could receive, whilst also looking how to expand access to concessions. Then in my second rotation, I was moved to the Chief Executive's office, and during that rotation, it was completely different. I was seeing the department from a different perspective and was able to understand the broader role of the department and the relationship our department has within the whole state government, and also how it works with the Minister's office. I found this quite interesting, and it was very different to what I'd worked in before. During that time, I was able to work with a lot of executives in the department and coordinate the department's briefings and requests from the Minister and Chief Executive. So they were my 2 that I've completed, and I'm now completing my final rotation in the graduate program in the Community and Aboriginal Partnerships Division. At the moment, I'm working closely with the advisor to the Executive Director on policy matters relating to youth justice, homelessness, regional and remote services, closing the gap, and Aboriginal practices and partnerships. Over my time in the graduate program, I've been able to attend heaps of events with the Minister, represent the department at community events, and also develop my skills through the graduate programs, through the graduate sessions that the program organises. So I'd highly recommend applying for a graduate program once you finish your degree. You're supported with the transition from university to full-time work, which can be quite intimidating. You're provided with many opportunities that you probably wouldn't be able to do if you weren't in a graduate program. I've found that during the time in the graduate program, you kind of make it what you want. And my advice would be to say yes to every opportunity you can. Ask to attend events and sit in on meetings. You never know who you're going to meet and the opportunities they can provide. I've found that the people in the department are so supportive and helpful, and will actively try and involve you in everything they can. So it's quite an exciting program to be involved in. That's kind of all from me. So I'll pass it back to you, Anna.
Great. Thank you so much, Chloe. Thanks for sharing your experiences. And if you're happy to hang on the line, we'll wait to the end, and if you've got any questions, you might be able to answer some of those as well. Excellent. Well, while we're going, I'll hand over to Dana, who is the manager of the Early Intervention Research and Data team, to share a bit about the work that she does.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Chloe. My God, you really have done a lot. Like, I'm quite amazed. That is incredible and beautifully and succinctly relayed. So I'm probably going to make a meal out of it. I feel like you've done such a great job. But look, my name's Dr. Dana Toisner, and I've actually only worked in the public sector for about 7 years. So there's still lots I need to learn, and I wish I had done a graduate program. I really wish that there was actually kind of like this induction program for anyone coming into the public sector. So I came into the public sector quite late in life, or late in my career. I'm an epidemiologist and a health services researcher by training. And most of you probably heard about this thing called epidemiology. Since COVID, people seem to be far more aware around what an epidemiologist does. But basically, we look at patterns of disease in the community, and we work to understand population needs and work out how interventions can improve health and be made effective, and how systems should be organised to make sure that services deliver the best outcomes. So that's broadly what an epidemiologist does. There's different sorts of epidemiologists. Some work with big data, collect data. Some are more clinically based. But that was the kind of work I did for nearly 20 years in a research centre at Adelaide University in a public health area. And what I've done is I've taken all that analytical and research skills that I've developed in looking at health systems, and now in my current role, I'm applying all those epidemiological approaches to child and family support services. So where I'm working now in DHS is the Child and Family Support Division, or the Child and Family Support System, as we refer to it. So now I've effectively kind of made a little bit of a sideways shuffle and pretty much doing what's referred to as social epidemiology. And this is quite a growing field within the social services. There's more and more of us around and more happening in this space. So it's quite an exciting space to work in, because there's a lot of frontiers to push through, and a lot of innovation and development work that needs to be done. So as a social epidemiologist, if I was a social epidemiologist in a health research centre, I would be looking at the social causes of disease. But as a social epidemiologist in DHS, I'm not only looking at the system reasons and the socio-ecological reasons or causes or factors associated with conditions, I'm also looking at the patterns of different social concerns. So we do things like monitor the population's needs around domestic violence services, housing services, homelessness, drug and alcohol misuse, and in particular in my division, how all those social concerns impact on parenting capability or may impact on child wellbeing. So it's the same sort of analytical approaches. And I saw in the chat that some of you are criminologists and psychology. So there is a lot of overlap with epidemiology and criminology in terms of the analytical approaches. But also if you came from an economics background or a psychology background or biostatistics. We've had someone in the someone apply for the graduate program that was a master in biostatistics, public health graduates, a whole range of areas of research are actually relevant, useful, and a good grounding to work in this space. So you don't actually have to be a purely trained epidemiologist to kind of work in this space. So a little bit more about what I'm actually doing now, which is, as I mentioned, I'm working in the Child and Family Support Division. And our main goal is to keep children safe and well in community and home. Our division supports the whole child and family support system, which delivers a range of really intensive and less intensive and community-based support services. And while we're not part of the child protection system, that's a separate department, we work very closely. I mean, we are working with the most complex families in the state, or the families that are living and experiencing very high levels of complexity and intergenerational trauma and disadvantage. There's over 40,000 children are notified to child protection every year. That's more than 22,000 families. So it's not a discrete small part of the population. This is a child maltreatment and neglect concerns are highly prevalent in our community. And while only a very small proportion of those children will actually be removed from their homes, most of those children are experiencing some sort of developmental impacts, and some of them have, a lot of them have quite serious concerns related to their well-being and safety. So our goal is to work with the most complex families within that group, which is around about 8,000 to 9,000 families, kind of need an intensive support response. So that's quite a large population of families that we're trying to reach. And these families have very, very high levels of domestic violence, drug and alcohol misuse, mental health, and a lot of comorbidity of lots of different socio-ecological concerns. Around 1 in 3 families that we work with might have all 3 of these key concerns around domestic violence, drug and alcohol, and mental health. So you can understand that the work we do is incredibly complex and incredibly difficult work that our practitioners have to work with. So it's a very interesting space. So if we get down to a little bit more about the specificity of my role within that child and family support system, I manage a team of epidemiologists, data engineers, analysts, data administrators, business system analysts. Some of them have masters in public health. Some of them are just psychology graduates. There's also people who've come from statistics backgrounds or information management backgrounds. We have a real variety in our team, and all those skills are required and needed to do what we do, which is primarily we build the data collection infrastructure, and we do all the evidence development and the provision of evidence to our system to support the continued improvement of services, the ongoing evaluation of the services, and do all the work that supports the design and understands the needs of the population. So it's effectively a public health data approach or a population data approach to social services. And what I've sort of found since I've been here is this is quite unique. In some ways, we're actually ahead of where a lot of the other states are in this space. Yes, epidemiology is creeping into the welfare sector, but because our department or our system or our sector was launched off the back of a big royal commission a few years ago, we've sort of got a bit of an edge. We're a bit ahead of the curve in terms of working out how you actually monitor these things in a community and how you respond to the needs of the community in keeping children safe and well, and then being able to show that in data. What I love most about working at DHS, I really wanted to say this bit. As a researcher, I was a very fortunate researcher in that I got to do a lot of my own primary data collection, and I got to be involved in some very large national data collections. A lot of researchers, their whole career might not have that opportunity to work with primary data. They might only work with secondary data, which is, has its own challenges, and it certainly is not as satisfying as having primary data collection. So working inside government, I've had an opportunity to extend that even further. Not only are we able to shape what's collected, when it's collected, from whose perspective the information's collected, but we get to do all of that really rewarding, important work right alongside the practitioners, right alongside the people delivering the services. So it's really rewarding and satisfying, and a huge privilege to be able to get that first-hand experience and thread it through your data analysis, and to have such ready access to the experts to help you interpret the data. When you're working in a university and research, you're sort of working at arm's length, and you're in a bit of an ivory tower, and you don't necessarily have the control to, you do all your analysis and you realize, well, it's not really working because I'm missing an important variable here. Well, for us, we can change that. We can go out and talk to the practitioners and get that important variable, that important piece of the puzzle into the data collection, because we have such proximal sort of control, I guess, over the data collection. So for me, as someone who is very interested in research, it's kind of like the best of both worlds, and just a really exciting place to work, to be able to be involved in innovation and innovating with the people who have boots on the ground. We also have a lived experience network, which played a really important part in our work as well. Do you want me to talk about what a graduate might do in our team? Have we got time?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you want to spend another minute or so just talking about that, that'd be fine.
We do have a graduate in our team in the current rotation, and they have a psychology background, and they're working on a really exciting. They've been given their own little project. We kind of get you involved in everyday tasks so that you learn a little bit about, if you don't have a data analytics background and that's something you want to develop, then we'll give you a little task so that you get really good at doing graphs and figures and slides and doing little pieces of data analysis. But we've also given the graduate their own project to drive, which is a really exciting thing. Our particular graduate was really interested in intergenerational trauma and how it impacted child development. And so we worked up a little mini project for him, and he is working very closely with the practice and quality team in the services to generate and build evidence that's helping them to design their services. So like Chloe, you do have that opportunity to sort of get straight to the heart of the matters. I get involved in things that are really meaningful straight out of the bat. You're not coming in as just an administrator who might be parked in the corner doing some work that needs to be done, but it might be very process or very limited in range. As a graduate, you're sort of given something that's going to extend you and fast track your career. So that's about it. And as I said before, we're interested in graduates from a broad range of backgrounds. Anyone who loves data and loves understanding how to do things better would fit right in. So it could be systems analysis, psychology, biostatistics, masters in public health, health service administration masters, as well as also very relevant as social administration, etc., etc. Economics as well. Yeah, economic evaluation is always important. So, okay, I'll just leave it at that. There might be some questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dana. That was really informative, about the work that your team does, but also I think showing the real variety of qualifications and degree areas and skill sets that we look for in our program across the department, and really that, you know, regardless of your degree, there are many opportunities. And I wanted to illustrate that a little bit more and just tell you a little bit about Chanel. Now, Chanel wasn't able to join us today because she's actually back at uni, and I'll explain why in a moment. But she did want to share her experience because I think it just shows you another pathway and opportunity through the program. So Chanel joined DHS as a graduate officer in 2024 in the ASO stream, and she came to us with a bachelor's degree in sociology. And Chanel worked in the social inclusion policy team for her first rotation. And this was around supporting volunteers, carers, young people, and the LGBTIQA plus community. And she talked, when I spoke to her, she talked about the opportunity that she had to work with and experience many professional development opportunities. She mentioned the training, networking, and the job shadowing. And so job shadowing is an opportunity where if you're working in one area, you might choose to do a job shadowing experience, which might be just a couple of days or a week, where you actually go to another team within the department and shadow someone within that team to understand a bit more about what they do. So Chanel had a background of working in disability as a mentor while she was completing her undergraduate degree, and she was interested in exploring service delivery roles. And so through the graduate coordinator that sits in the organisational development team, she inquired about job shadowing and looked at some divisions where she might be able to have this experience. And she asked a co-worker for a contact in the exceptional needs unit, which is one area within the department that work with people with very complex needs, and they employ a lot of social workers in that area. And so we set up for her a job shadowing arrangement where she sat in with a couple of team meetings and shadowed one of their workers for a couple of days. And that actually led to her applying for a position within that team in a professional officer role. So professional officers, this is a role that she's got outside of the graduate program, but a professional officer can be someone from the social sciences, human services, health or related fields who work with allied health professionals in a social work related role, but not as a social worker specifically. And she's currently working to support children and adults with disability who can't access the NDIS because they're not a resident of Australia. So through that process, Chanel has now started studying a Master of Social Work. That's why she can't be here today, because today's her uni day. And she's getting support through the department to use flexible working arrangements and some study leave to support her to do that while she is still working within DHS. So that's just an example of how Chanel's come in a policy role with a sociology degree, and through experience, and credit to Chanel, through her own initiative to go and explore some of those other options, she's found a role in a service delivery area that has really, I think, met her values and her needs in terms of what she's wanting out of her career. And that's now led her to undertaking some further study to work towards becoming a social worker. So again, I think that just shows the really wide variety of opportunities within DHS. It can be a little bit of a choose your own adventure type experience. But I think Chanel, certainly her advice when I asked her was for graduates and people coming into programs was to make the most of making connections, ask your co-workers around you about their network, and don't be afraid to ask the question and reach out to someone about their role. So that's just another example of some of the experiences that people have within the program. So I will just talk very briefly about the graduate program for this year and our application process, and then we will have some time at the end for questions. Kate, I can see that you've popped a question in there. I'll just pause on that one and we'll definitely answer that at the end. But in terms of graduate program eligibility, so to be eligible for the 2025-26 DHS graduate program, you just need to complete your undergraduate or postgraduate degree by December 2025. As I said, we do have a mid-year intake starting in September, so that would be for anyone who's finishing their degree in the middle of the year. So you would just need to have completed and had your degree conferred prior to your start date. You need to either be a citizen, a permanent resident, or a visa holder. We've employed many graduates who have studied on international student visas and then transfer to a postgraduate working visa after their studies. I'll just mention, because I have had the question before, we do not sponsor the visas, but if you already have a visa and working rights within Australia, then you are eligible for the program. You just need to be able to provide appropriate screening checks. So police check is a minimum, and then some roles do require a working with children check or an NDIS screening. You need to have not previously completed a graduate program within or hosted by the South Australian public sector, and have completed a degree in one of the following areas. So this list probably isn't exhaustive, and feel free to ask if you don't see your degree on there, but as hopefully we've demonstrated through Dana and Chloe and Chanel's experiences, is that we are very open to people with a whole range of degrees. So you can see criminology is there, business, behavioural sciences, economics, human resource management. So we've obviously got the corporate services areas within our department, so HR, IT, etc., where we do have graduates place, project management, public health, social policy, public policy, statistics, software engineering. So very wide range of experience of degree areas that we are recruiting for. And in terms of the applications and the application process, so applications for the 2025-26 program will open in mid-May for a 3-week period. The program will be advertised on iWork4SA, on Seek, and also on the university career hubs. We'll make sure to promote it on there. In terms of the application requirements, we'll ask you to submit your resume and a cover letter responding to the application criteria. There will be a series of questions that we'll ask you to respond to in your cover letter. My one piece of advice, often people will say, how can I make my application stand out? What can I do? The first thing would be, make sure you read the application criteria, and if we ask you to respond to application questions, please do so. We do get lots of applications where people might submit a fairly generic cover letter and they haven't responded to the information that we've requested. And often a lot of those applications will be passed over, and we'll look at the ones where people have read through and responded to the criteria. So if you are interested in the program and you put an application in, that's probably the first step. Please make sure you do that. From that process, we will then shortlist, and there will be assessment centres held in July this year. So that will be a half-day process, but you'll come in, you'll get to meet some other applicants, you'll go through an interview and also a group activity, and then we will make decisions based on that, and we look to advise people of the outcome in around August. And as I said, we have a potential start date in September or February. I just wanted to touch on using AI for your applications. I know that a lot of people do, and certainly, you know, tools like ChatGPT are very available and very useful. So I think there's no issue in using it. It's really just how you use it. So we do get a lot of applications where people seem to have used ChatGPT, and the ones that stand out are where maybe you use it to give you some structure to your application, but then you actually go through and personalize it and tailor it to yourself. So one thing that ChatGPT is great at is spitting out a really cohesive, well-written cover letter. However, the cover letter that it spits out for you is probably going to be pretty similar to the cover letter it spits out for about 50 other people. So when you're going through hundreds of applications, it does become obvious quite quickly if somebody hasn't tailored that at all. And so what we really look for now, particularly for DHS, in terms of what we look for applicants, we're looking for graduates, passion and integrity, who are committed to working for the South Australian public sector, for our department, and are really looking for a role where they can make a difference. Values alignment's very important to us. And so I think that's hard to really get that feel come through with a computer-generated letter. So that's where it really pays, I think, to put a bit of yourself in there and make sure that you're certainly speaking to your own values and motivations as well. And the cover letters where it looks like someone's actually written it themselves from scratch are actually the ones that stand out to us these days. Great. So that was all the information I wanted to go through with you today. We've got about 10 minutes or so left, so I'll just throw it open whether anybody has any questions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Aaron. Yes, we can.
Excellent. One question I guess I had was around just it sounded very research heavy, theory heavy, policy writing and things like that. Is there people interactions with community members, or is it just your team and direct team and things like that, or is it a whole broad variety of people that you interact with?
Absolutely. Dana or Chloe, would you like to share your experiences?
Oh, well, from our perspective, oh, just checking that I'm on. From our perspective, it's pretty hard to write a brief by just going and looking up stuff online in our space. That would be pretty impossible. If you were tasked with writing a brief or doing some policy research, it would necessarily involve with talking to lived experience, talking to the practitioners, talking to our NGO partners. You just simply can't do this work by sitting in an office and reading already, research articles. Research articles are only going to get you so far. You might get a few contextual facts from information online, but generally it's effectively like primary research, really, if you're trying to gather the information for it to respond to a policy question or a policy issue. That's my perspective. I know it can be different in different spaces, but I would say that was pretty much the way it goes most of the time. I don't know, Chloe, you've done more of a policy role, and the OCE is a little bit different again, but how would you describe it?
Yeah, so when I was in the concessions rotation, I went to a whole lot of community events, and you're talking to the community members, understanding what their struggles are, and then you kind of go back and go, how can we change a policy? So definitely, you're definitely not just in a office environment where you're only looking at, documents. You are speaking to community members or external stakeholders. You can, as Dana said, you can't just be doing this work without talking to people. So that was concessions office in the office of the chief executive. That's a bit of a different area, which is probably more internal, but you're also talking with the minister's office. So you're developing a relationship with a completely different area in that sense as well. Hope that helped a bit.
Yeah, no, that did. I guess it sounds like there's a corporate side to things as well as a sort of community side as well, where you're just sort of balancing the two and knowing what to say and which. And as you said in the video as well, it's human in the human services. So
yeah, definitely. I think most of our roles would have a bit of a balance. Certainly there is an element of, doing research or, writing policy recommendations and things like that. But very much we, if you're in a policy role, there's still, community members to consult with, people to meet with, to discuss. If you're in an actual corporate services role, there's still always stakeholders and customers who are considering and wanting to discuss. And I think certainly, Chloe, from what you said, and I know from many of the other graduates, that all of our business areas really try to make opportunities that graduates can be getting out in front of people and meeting members of the community or other stakeholders and getting that experience as well, because we know it's not really very interesting just sitting in front of a computer all day. I think most of the people who come into our department are coming in because, as I said, they do have that values alignment, they're interested in making a difference, wanting to work with humans, with the community and all of that kind of stuff. And so we're very much focused on ensuring that there are those opportunities, in addition to some of the more kind of researchy based work that people might do also. It's just a question in the chat about why there's a minimum course length for the postgraduate degrees. Look, Tegan, that came in. We are very flexible and happy to discuss specific circumstances, but we did have for a period of time people applying who might have done sort of a 6-month graduate certificate as their most recent course. And we just felt that really what the purpose of this program, is to provide opportunities for people who are completing that longer degree. You can have the eligibility is that you've completed your degree within the last 3 years. So if you've completed an undergraduate degree within the last 3 years but are now doing a shorter course, then that's still eligible as well. But you're certainly welcome to reach out if you've got specific circumstances that you'd like to discuss. We're pretty friendly and approachable, I'd like to think. Kate, you just asked about the jump between streams. So the only hard streams we have are between the ASO classified roles and the AHP, which is the Allied Health classified roles. So the jobs we're talking about today are the ASO classified roles. So really, although some business areas might, so for example, if you were studying human resource management and you wanted to work in HR or organisational development, then you're probably going to stay within, a couple of different teams. You might not then go and work in Dana's team, for example, if you don't have that data background. But certainly within that, we are very flexible. So you don't get pigeonholed into a particular stream and you can't move. It's really around the different divisions and business areas across the department and what skill sets and degree areas that they are looking for. But we do find that many of our graduates are able to work across a number of different business areas, I should say, like Chloe's talked about, where she's been in concessions. Then she was in the Office of the Chief Executive, and now she's working in community and Aboriginal partnerships. So she's really been able to take that law and intergovernmental relations, I think you said, Chloe, degree, and apply that across quite a number of different areas. International relations.
International development.
Sorry, international development, sorry.
Can I just ask for a little bit of clarification, just sort of second guessing what Kate might be thinking, because Kate, you mentioned that you were a Masters of Social Work, so she might be thinking she's interested in the AHP stream, but would that preclude her, because we have the AHPs in our division, would that preclude her from doing a rotation in ERD, which is also in the same division, or does it have to stay?
Thank you.
Or is that getting too specific?
No. That might have been it. I don't know if you want to jump in, Kate, and just clarify that more what you were asking. Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, that is kind of what I meant.
Okay, sorry. So look, yes, in that case, within the graduate program, the roles and the employment offer is within a stream. That is actually correct. So it is either an AHP classified role or an ASO classified role. We do have people like Chanel, who I mentioned, who has come in one particular stream, and then she's actually applied for a role outside of the graduate program, won that separately, and actually moved into that role. So once you come into DHS, there's nothing preventing you from applying for other roles and looking at streams. But in terms of the graduate program itself, the employment is within either AHP or ASO. That is actually correct. Thanks, Dana, for checking that.
Thank you so much for that.
That's okay. But certainly people with social work degrees, and we have had people before who, when they're applying, have applied for the AHP and the ASO stream because maybe they're open to both. We had someone who started last year, Alex, who had completed a social work degree, and he actually applied for both. He was successful in the ASO stream and has been working in that stream. So you're certainly welcome to apply for both, but we would, if you were successful, you'd get sort of one or the other depending on the process.
And just to qualify, Kate, there is ASO positions in child and family support division. It's not just they're all AHPs working in that division. There is you could come in as an ASO and work sort of in a practitioner adjacent role within that division, as well as do a stint with us, because it's a big division with different departments, with different directorates is what I meant to say. See, I'm not a very good public servant. I don't know what's going on. I need to do the graduate induction course.
Okay, great. Natasha, you just asked how many graduates we generally take. Look, it does vary from year to year, but based on the last couple of years, we take between 15 and 20 graduates per year. Right, okay, well, we're almost out of time. Got time for one last question if anyone's sort of got a burning question that they'd love to ask. No? All right, well, thank you so much for your time. I've just put up on the screen here another QR code. just for you to scan if you'd like to follow our profile on the Flinders Career Hub. And that means that you'll get alerts for vacancies as they are published, including the graduate program this year when that goes live in May. So if you want to scan that and follow us, then you'll get all the updates that you need. Great. So thank you again so much for your time. It's been lovely to have you all on the call. I hope you found it useful. This session has been recorded, and I think if you wanted to get a copy of the recording, you can reach out to the careers team at Flinders and they can send that to you. Otherwise, if you've got any further questions, the email address there is DHS Organisational Development, which is a bit of a mouthful, at sa.gov.au. You can also check out our website. We have more information about our graduate program and about other employment opportunities within the department as well. So thanks again, everybody. Wishing you, good rest of your day and good luck with finishing your studies.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Look forward to meeting you someday. Bye.